Have you ever looked at your friend or looked at somebody and what they were doing looked extremely easy from the outside? So maybe you insulted them like, this your work is easy. Or what is it that you're doing safe? Have you ever heard people say things like that? And the moment you try to do it, you then began to respect them afterwards because you realize that, look, it was extremely hard. That's exactly how real estate is. You see, when it comes to real estate investments, there are a couple of things that look extremely easy until you step into it, all right? Just get a Shortlet, 10 people rent every week, and then, there's an expectation that you just get a couple of results, right? But that's not always the case, which is exactly what I'm doing this video for you. I want to show you 5 things that I would like you to pay attention to if you're planning to use your apartment, or you're planning to maybe just even get an apartment for Shortlet Business here in Nigeria. But if this is your first time to this channel, welcome, 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 welcome. If you haven't already done so, there's some link around here. Subscribe. Our phone numbers are scrolling to the screen. You could reach us if you have any inquiries or you're even looking to commit to a property. Comment when you're done. Share to your friends, share to your enemies, share to your landlord. If he rejects you to do Shortlets, you are on your own, right? So there are a couple of things, a lot of information around online when it comes to using an apartment to start a Shortlet business in Nigeria. But like I said, I'll zoom in on 5 of these that I think if you pay attention to would be extremely optimal for you. So one of the first things that I think you should pay attention to is if you want to start a Shortlet business, and I think everybody knows this is quite generic, is the location. Why does location matter? Location matters for many things, and it's actually like everything. You can't put square pegs in round holes, all right? If you want to create a Shortlet in a place, now, contrary to what people think, a lot of people think a location is only great when you already have, a lot of demand, a lot of this. But I'll give you an example. I did make a travel to Osun State. Now, for those of you who are not in Nigeria, Osun State is not one of those top urbanized states where you have all the bars and all of that. It's not that. The average population there maybe is of the older age, and it's, like I said, it's not really a buzzing city like that. And I lodged in a Shortlet. When I lodged in the Shortlet, I remember having a conversation with the person that, look, how much does the Shortlet here go for? And he told me, first of all, that to first of all get the Shortlet where we stayed, he had to book it down for 2 months. I said, He said if you didn't book it down 2 months earlier, we were not going to get the Shortlet to stay. And I asked him for the rate it was going. And funny enough, the rate it was going was almost significant to the rate in Ikeja. And I was surprised because I thought a state like that has no traction, has no high economic activity to demand, Shortlet. But something then struck me when he made that statement. I didn't realize that, look, sometimes everybody is here fighting in Lagos, trying to get the piece of cake of Lagos, but then there's nobody in all of those other states. So could it be that if we can be extremely strategic in places where demand is maybe not high, it's just that the supply is low? All right, so Lagos has high demand and supply is trying to catch up. Some places don't have high demand, they just have extremely low supply. So if you are 1 in the 20, 1 in the 30 people, the question is, probably you drive a lot more demand with a lot less wahala. So you want to be checking your location, you want to be extremely strategic to ensure that you pick a place that is optimal, all right? And even if you're doing a Shortlet in Lagos, you want to ensure that where you're picking, there is enough positioning strategically to ensure that you have consistent inflow of your Shortlet. That's number 1. Now, the second thing that I need you to pay attention to if you want to do a Shortlet business in Nigeria is what I call feeders. All right, Feeders. So what exactly are feeders? Let me explain what feeders are. So feeders are the things that are already existing in an area that drag people to the area so that people then need your Shortlet to stay. And I'm going to become extremely practical. You see, we many times do not have the capacity individually to transform an area. But what we can do is to find an area that is already transformed and tap into it. So let me give you an example. If you go to a place, there are bars around that place, there are joints around that place, Maybe there's a lot of recreational activities around that place. Maybe there are universities around that place. Those places are already feeders for your shortlets. So people already go there because of those places. There's a lot of high energy already existing in those places. Then where you position your shortlet can feed off of those places. So whether or not you drag the people, people are already dragged. And because they're already dragged to those regions, then your shortlet then can feed off them, right? So you won't be looking for high energy areas. There are certain places in this Lagos, Friday night is a show, the road is going to be blocked. So you want to be asking yourself, in the area that I want to position myself, do we already have existing feeders? Do we already have existing things that attract people enough so we have a high volume, high energy of people? And feeders could be anything. Like I said, there could be church, there could be bars, there could be party places, but there could even be religious centers. For example, there are certain regions in Lagos where there are a lot of churches. And because there are a lot of churches, they're big churches, maybe Anglican, Catholic church, or some large churches here and there. Those churches always do weddings. Are you with me? Or for the older people, most times it's weddings. And when people do weddings, the brides, chief bridesmaids, all those people, they have to lodge the grooms overnight. So if the church is doing wedding every single, all right, that's a good feeder. All right. So one of the things you want to check in for again is the feeders in the environment. Are there things that are already dragging people so that we can leverage on the people that are already being dragged? Number 3 is the demographics. You see, we need to understand, all right, the kind of people in an area is very significant, very important, which is why I'm always of the opinion that you want to find an area that has a large concentration of young people. Because it's these young people that go out, it's these young people that, let me use a vernacular word here, jaye means, enjoy themselves and all that. So you want to check the demographics. Are these people the energetic people? Go and put a shortlet in some places where there are only old people there. They are just retired, they have their own house, they're just waiting to die, no high energy, no activity. You may have low occupancy rates. So demographics. Another thing you want to pay attention to, do you want to be asking yourself, does this region have a high level of expatriates? Expatriates is one of the subtle demographics that pay you the highest. I remember we're about to book a shortlet for one of my friends who came from outside the country. And the first one wanted to book, they said an expatriate, somebody who came from outside the country, had paid for it for 6 months. I said, He said, yes, paid for it for 6 months. All right. And the reason why is because a lot of those people, maybe Chinese people, Indian people, come from outside the country. They don't know anybody. Do you understand? So they don't want to rent a house where they have to think about who is going to fuel gen, who is going to do, and they have the dollars. So by the time they convert the dollars to Naira, how much is it? Because over there in the US, people are paying maybe as high as $3,000 to $5,000 per month in rent. Then convert that money, that's 6 million. And you're telling them your shortlet is 200K per day. How much is 6 million? They'll pay happily. Do you understand? So you want to check. There are certain regions in Lagos that have high concentration of expatriates. Can we locate our shortlets around them so that we could tap off that system? And these people like to stay in community. For example, I do know Ilukoju has a very high Indian community. Somewhere around the Keja, they're concentrated in certain estates. You see them largely white people there. So again, like I said, do you want to position yourself in that demography because it may be easier to feed off those places? And again, you can get long-term stays from those kind of people. Now, the next thing you want to pay attention to, point number 4, when you're building your shortlet, is listen. You want to ask yourself a very important question and a very important shortlet organization structure, which is, there are certain people who they build a house. Maybe they build a house, then you buy flats. So just you in the flat is doing shortlet. Maybe the person above is living, the person above is renting or whatever. But you are the only one in the building that is doing shortlets. So what happens is you need to employ a caretaker. You need somebody to fuel the journey if there's an issue, if it's not a service apartment. You need somebody to pay the bills and all of that and all of that. What happens is that's a model. All right. Another model is the entire building is already used for shortlets. right? So all the units are used for shortlet. Very, very many times, model B works or may be a better model than model A. Like I said, there's a lot of shared resources there. So the person who sweeps the outer compound will sweep for everybody. Do you understand what I'm saying? If there's a caretaker, the caretaker can manage all the rooms. If there are 10, 5, 10, 15 rooms in a place, all right? He can manage the guests coming in. He can manage the guests coming out. So one thing you want to pay attention to is this a single unit, just me, or is it me and a lot of people? All right. And another thing is, you see, sometimes people want to book 2, 3, 4 rooms as shortlets, but when it's just you, they can't book you. But sometimes in these other apartments, they'll come, they would realize that, okay, there are 2, 3, 4, 5 people here. They say, imagine somebody wants to marry now. He wants all his people, all her people, want them to be in one single place, and they may not want to use a hotel. But because they're the only one here, they may not be able to end. But if somebody books one, and I say, oh, we have 2, 3 other people, so you can participate in the overflow demand of the other units. And like I said, many times the resources are shared. And number 5, the last thing you want to check in the area, which is a really dicey thing, is you want to check what I call the concentration of supply. So I'm going to explain. It's a good thing and a bad thing. So what is the concentration of supply? It's quite simple. You want to be asking yourself if the area already has too many shortlets. That's the summary. Now, listen, it goes both ways, because plenty shortlets in an area can be confirmation that the area is a good place for shortlets. But at the same time, when they just begin to get too much, when the supply begins to drastically or exceed the demand, what may begin to happen is it begins to put a cap on your pricing. So you want to price at 200K, you want to price at 150,000 Naira per night, 100,000 per night. The guy looks at you, the guy next building is pricing at 85K for the same 3-bedroom, same services, and before you know it. So what happens is there is a serious limitation. Just like I gave the assurance example, those guys can pull any stunts they want. But there's a serious limitation on how high you can price. But at the same time, you must be careful. If there's nobody in an area, it may be a good thing, but you want to check very well. Is it just that people haven't discovered this area as a great place? Or there's some issues in the area before you get in, and what you ordered was very different from what you got, right? So check these 5 things out, and I'm sure they will make life easy for you when you want to get a shortlet or get a house to use for a shortlet business, right? I hope these 5 points were valuable for you. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have other points that you think I have missed, do me a favor, comment below. Let's have a decent conversation. And if you have questions, ask, and my people will be ready to answer. But more importantly, if you thought this video was extremely valuable, then I can tell you what is in this particular next video is going to blow your mind. So if you have a few minutes, ensure you check out this video and keep upgrading your real estate knowledge. If you're looking to get shortlets, you're looking to have some strategic real estate investments, there are numbers scrolling around the screen, whether it's shortlets in Lagos, whether it's in Abuja, whether you just need to have a decent conversation on how to build your portfolio, or you're even looking for lands here and there, you need advice, or you want to invest from outside the country. Like I said, that numbers scrolling around the screen. Do well, send us a message. Someone on our team will respond to you and walk you through your property journey. Lastly, Shortlets is just one of the many ways you can make money in real estate. I have a free material that I would like you to check out. If you leave a comment below, someone will respond to you with a link to get that material straight into your inbox. Thank you so much. And if you have not subscribed, ensure you do so. If you haven't liked, ensure you do so and share this video. And I'll see you on the next video. Till then, I remain Ruto Z, your plug for the best real estate investment. Yes, see you on the next one.